titi, ka tangi kaka, ka tangi hoki aha, ti he Māori ora. E te ti, he te tā. Māori ora ki a kau. Kei te mihi aha ki te mana whenua, ara ko mai tua fuhi, tēnā kau. He mihi ki ngā kai kōrero, ko Caitlin, ko Andrew, ko Tom, ko Jessie, ko Fiona, rātau, ko Vicky, tēnā kau. He mihi ki ngā manuki, tēnā kau. E tu ana ahau he kai kōrero mō Aspire Canterbury. Ko wai au no ingarangi no ko te rara o Petitu. No te whanganui a tara ahau, e kai arataki ahau ki te kuno o Pito Allenvale, me te kahui ako o Waimoni. Ko Great East o toku. Nau te rōrau, nāku te raurau, ka ora ai te mā. Nō reira, tātou, tēnā koe, ka toa. Let's look at it here and we'll go back. So, if you're able, please get to standing. If you know this one, sing along, otherwise I'll just do it and you can come at the end where I say, yeah, bye. So, taki na te karakia, tūtawa mai I roka, tūtawa mai I raro, tūtawa mai I roko, tūtawa mai I raro. Kia tau ai te mauri tu, te mauri ora te kātoa. Yeah, tai. So just very quickly, I'll come back through that. So hear the cry of the kaka, hear the cry of the titi. Now hear my cry, please this occasion. To everyone from all directions here, welcome today. Warm greetings to you all. An acknowledgement of Mai Tuahuriri based out at Tuahiwi because they are the mana whenua of this rohi. And then special greetings to our speakers today. A greeting to you all as visitors, manuhiri. I'm standing up, I don't work for Aspire Canterbury, but I'm helping out my colleagues today by introducing. And then, because it's the kawa, but you don't want to know about me or not me, but I do work at Pito Allenvale School and for the local kahuyako. And just a whakatauki today about collaboration. And so welcome to everybody. Then I'll pass over to you.
I wouldn't know what I was doing it. Kia ora, ko Julie toko ingoa. My name is Julie. I am manager for Aspire Canterbury and I'm here today with my colleague Amy. Graham is definitely not boring, as he just said. You don't know what to know about boring Amy. He has been extremely helpful. We've been working collaboratively with Graham, who works for Allenvale School. So thank you so much, Graham. Today we are in the Braintree Wellness Centre. The Braintree Wellness Centre is the brainchild of a gentleman by the name of Simon Challies. He used to be the CEO for Ryman Healthcare. He got Parkinson's and he raised the funding for this building for people with neurological conditions. There are approximately 7 or 8 different charitable trusts that operate out of this building now. Aspire Canterbury's legal trading name is the Disabled Persons Centre Trust, and we trade as Aspire Canterbury. We're established in 1982. We've been running for over 40 years, and we provide unbiased information to individuals, predominantly disabled people and their carers. We also run the Total Mobility Scheme. We have mobility equipment for sale and for hire, and we have a mobile service. Our charitable purpose is to remove the barriers for disabled people to be living their good life in their community. And we thank everybody for coming along and joining us here this evening. I'm going to pass over to Caitlin. Caitlin is here to talk with us about her lived experience of transitioning from school. And Caitlin, I won't say anything else, and I'll hand over to you to share your story. Thank you, Caitlin.
What is the Vicky card? This is my Vicky for Philippine Huawei in my back garden. These items I've been using is lettuce, carrots, celery, bit and basil, and coriander. I use fish for cooking in my thermomix, which will be of the next slide. You'll see one after this one. So this is my thermomix I've been using. It's easy to cook meals with, and it goes under my funding as well. The thermomix will cut, soufflés, and it cooks for meals like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. These tips are very visual to me, so you can actually read what the instructions will give you and how much you actually need to put in it. If it leads me up to my next slide, which is my washing line and my washing machine. My budget was actually come under my washing machine, washing line, and my iron board. These were items I've been using. But for my washing line, I'm actually a quite short person, but also I find it difficult to reach things that are really high. So my parents giving me an opportunity to lower it down for me, so it'll be easy for me to reach things. My iron is actually for me to iron my clothes. Even though I use my washing machine a lot, but which is actually a very good buy. And leads me to my next slide of this evening is under Recreate. My NGO funding comes under Recreate. I do lots of fun things, things like camps, breakaways, getaways, and social things. Just like my siblings, my brother and my sister. My community is a safe place where I do cool, fun stuff and a lot of other people. But Create is like a fun way to use my funding and use my money. And now onto my phone and my laptop and my bike. I use my bike a lot. When I do rowing every Tuesday, I use my own laptop. When I go onto the internet, top up my metro card, check out the bus route is like, and organize my emails in order. For my phone, it's got a much bigger screen to use. Easy for me to transfer my money over if I need to top up my carry bag or for the phone. Thank you for listening to my behind the scenes of my life. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Callanan, thank you so much for sharing your story. I always think it's really brave when people stand up and they talk about their own story and their own life. Of course, one thing presenting when you're talking from a company's perspective, I always think it's so brave when someone shares their own personal story. So thank you so much. Next up, we've got Tom and Nick from the Enabling Good Lives team here in Christchurch. Come on up.
Good here, or do you want to?
Yep.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Right. So, kia ora koutou katoa, ko Tom Callanan tokonga, and as you can say, and this is Nick. So we're from the Enabling Good Lives team, and yeah, it's great to be with you this evening. Unfortunately, Andrew Robertson, who's our current budget advisor, he is sick today, so we're filling in. So please excuse me when I start to read slightly, just in case I miss anything. I don't want you to miss out. But Nick has been our administrator and is actually becoming one of our budget advisors as we grow. So I'm sure that is what
I'll try and
only did my third degree in a couple of classes, so for anyone that doesn't know, so Enabling Good Lives is about a partnership between the disability sector and government, and it's based on disabled people having more choice and control in their lives and access to natural supports. And today we're talking in particular about personal budgets and having more control over the resources that are available to you. Currently in Christchurch, the personal budgets and access to a connector or kaitohono is only available to those who have OARS funding and have been attending a Christchurch high school since 2013. So we have referral forms here, and we're happy to talk to anyone afterwards. If this isn't familiar to you and you'd like to hear more. We're also really hopeful that very soon the government has committed to rolling out the Enabling Good Lives approach nationally, so that criteria will broaden as well. We also just wanted to acknowledge that people have been really generous with their photos and their stories, and we really appreciate that. And it's great to follow on from what Caitlin's demonstrated with her Good Life as well. Hopefully this gives a bit more context to that as well. Yeah. So just to start with, Whaikaha, the Ministry of Disabled People, was established as of the 1st of July this year. So all the supports that were available through the Ministry of Health funding have now been transferred over to Whaikaha. And the Enabling Good Lives team are part of the Ministry of Disabled People. Yeah. So when we talk about an Enabling Good Lives personal budget, it is essentially all of the traditional funding that people are entitled to that's pulled all together into and monetized into one single amount. That's a single personal budget that people can use more flexibly. So that allows people to plan ahead for what a good life looks like. And again, Callanan illustrated that really well with a number of the things that she's developed over many years. And the personal budget aligns very closely with the individual's personal plan. So whatever your goals may be, Caitlin's were clearly a lot around developing more independence, and therefore those purchases she made through the personal budget aligned with that plan. Also, the flexibility of the personal budget is really important. So where through the traditional funding, if you don't maximise, say, your personal care amount, then you don't get to use it for anything else. Whereas when it's pulled through a personal budget, it allows for that flexibility. It also allows for people's lives when you may need some more support during the year, and when you may not need as much during the year, when you've got more natural support around you. You're not feeling like you need to go and attend as many during the winter, for example. There are a few exceptions of things that aren't in personal budgets that still remain as they are. And that is, for example, the funding related to specialist teacher time, any support around employment support and the benefits that people receive through WINS, and residential support subsidies. And also just on that, the other note is that a lot of people who receive carer support can choose to add that to their Enabling Good Lives personal budget as well, which allows just for a little bit more flexibility than you currently able to access through carer support. So how do I set up an Enabling Good Lives personal budget? Well, first, as I said before, you need to be currently eligible, and that's through completing a referral that comes through to us and confirm your eligibility. And then you choose which connector from the Enabling Good Lives team you want to work with. And that person's an independent ally who works alongside you to understand what a good life looks like for you, and how to go about achieving some of those goals that you've come up with. they also will support you with choosing who you want to host your personal budget. So they're called funding hosts. Lifelinks, who are the needs assessment service coordination team, they are the people that will convert your existing entitlements into that budget amounts that I was talking about that can then be used more flexibly. And they arrange to send that amount through to your budget host that you've chosen. You can do this through contacting us at Enabling Good Lives, or you can also find out more information through Lifelinks. You've already got an outcome for that. So personal budgets are administered by funding hosts. You can choose who your funding host is. There's currently 12 funding hosts in Canterbury, and they all offer something slightly different. So you can choose who suits you best and your needs. You can change it, and you can split it as well. Really importantly, you can choose how much and who hosts the different parts of your total budget. A funding host, as I say, some of them offer some of those services and some of them offer all. But a funding host, for example, might choose to purchase things on your behalf, reimburse you for things that you've purchased yourself, put some of your budget directly into your bank account so you can make the purchase, or they may provide services to you directly, like they may employ support workers on your behalf. Really importantly, the funding hosts respond to your needs. So what we're really trying to encourage is people to ask as many questions of funding hosts as possible, and really allow for the flexibility of what you require. So really encourage people to tell them what you want and how you can assist, and ask around about the different funding hosts as well. And even if you choose one, that doesn't mean that that funding host has to be the funding host forever. They can change over time, just as your needs change and your life change. And I suppose that's especially important when we're talking about transition. You may come up with different ideas over the last few years of school that you want to try a few different things, and that's another opportunity to really develop a different relationship with your funding host. What can I spend it on? That's so Caitlin's really illustrated some really good examples of what you can spend it on. There's really only 4 things and 4 guidelines that it has to relate to your disability needs, that it contributes to your good life, so it relates to the goals that you have in your plan, that it's a cost-effective option. That doesn't mean that it has to be the cheapest, it's just that it's good to have a reason for why. For example, if you have a visual impairment, you need a larger screen on your phone. And it's not meant to be funded it's not meant to be funded by someone else. So, for example, my wheelchair is funded through the ministry, so if I had a personal budget, I wouldn't need to use that for the purchase of that. Again, the purpose of the connector or kaitohana is to work alongside you to help support those decisions and connect you with funding hosts and support those conversations around what a good life looks like. Again, Caitlin illustrated that so well. And I know that takes a lot of time and persistence and effort, and that's what the connector is available for. There's no set number of hours that the connector can work alongside you, so it's just as much as you need. And although we've got a little example here, but Caitlin's given some much better, greater examples. I guess the point is that for any purpose, it really starts with what is the, for any purchase, it's really about what is the purpose behind that. And so often in the example that we have, it was about greater independence in day-to-day tasks. And Callanan also illustrated that with mining mission as well. The person that we had in mind when we were talking about was a young woman who also uses a wheelchair and is living rurally and wanted to be able to own her own washing and do her own washing, own her own washing machine and do her own washing independently and contribute to her local community, similar to what Pere was sharing as well. I did say the person was a wheelchair user, so that's not actually their watching line, I should say, but just to point out. So just like Callanan, the woman I'm referring to made the purchase of a front loader washing machine. So her budget covered the difference between a cheaper top loader to the model she needed for her accessibility. Which meant that she was able to do that a lot more independently. And her confidence grew, and Callanan illustrated that can lead to a whole heap of other opportunities in the community as well. In this particular example, the young woman who started doing laundry, then because it was a small rural community, the local rugby team asked her to help out with doing some of their washing, which they paid her for, and she was able to develop as a bit more of an identity in the local community. And she was recognised for her contribution as well. So that really helped her with connecting with others, which isn't always easy to do in a rural community, and really supported her identity in that community as well. So I talked before a little bit about the budget hosts. Currently, these are the ones that are available. Whānau in charge can run a payroll and reimburse you for purchases. They're not technically a funding host, but they do something similar. For those of you that have individualised funding, you'll already be familiar with Whānau in charge, and that's a great place to start if you already are familiar with them. The other hosts provide direct services. So, for example, Idea and Youth Space. You may wish for them to host part of your budget because the costs related to youth space, that would make it easier to access more of their support. But importantly, as I said, it's really up to you in terms of how you want to support. And we will be hanging around if anyone does have any questions, unless there's something completely missed that you'd like to ask right now. But as I say, we'll be here all week, so feel free to come and have a chat.
All right, thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much. Okay, next up we have the Ministry of Social Development. So we've got Jessie, Heather and Fiona. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Should I be passing this to you?
I'll take the clicker.
Yeah. It's like half a button.
Yeah, we have some papers. It's just of presentation that you can space on there if you want it.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh.
Yes. Okay. That's good. You have everything? Yes.
Thank you so much. We are from Whanau County and we've had a February housing disability thing. I'm Jessie, I'm the housing disability coordinator. And we also have two colleagues here.
I'm Fiona Frew, the regional health advisor.
What's our original advisor?
What we've given you is a copy of what we'll be sharing tonight. So we wanted to talk to you about who we are. So who is Work and Income? And as the name suggests, we're about work first, and also income, and we can support people with their housing needs as well. So I want to very quiet, sorry.
Just especially for the people on Zoom. Oh, sorry. Just feel better.
Okay.
So we are about work and training and upskilling people and helping them around that, but also around financial assistance and housing, and we'll touch on all of these things as we go along.
If the microphone's awkward, if you just speak loudly, it'll pick it up, I think.
Yeah.
It's quite a
You've just done this one, haven't you?
sorry, Jane.
Alright, so go back to the. Sorry. Everybody sitting back there.
do this.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, often we just sit there talking and answering questions, really. But where is the key aspect for work and income? We certainly administer benefits and provide welfare support, but all of our benefits are based on a person's capacity for work. And many of our services are designed to support people into work, regardless of which benefit you're on. We have lots of providers in the community that can help support with that, and in contracted services that we can help you with. We also have lots of funding around supporting employers and supporting our people back into the workforce, back into employment, because in the end, it's really important to for people to realise their best lives, really, and the only way to live outside of poverty is to have some extra income, because certainly our benefits are not huge.
So the main benefits would generally be income if they are not asset listed. Some of them may already be aware of these things. The main ones that you may be aware of are job seeker support. So that's for people that are able to work more than 15 hours a week. And as Fiona's indicated, we do have staff as well that can help towards what suitable work might look like for each of our clients. And that may be as simple as some volunteer work, a few hours volunteer work per week, or it might be progressing into full-time work. So whatever that looks like for each person that sits in front of our case managers. Supported living payment is the benefit for those that are not expected to be able to work more than 15 hours a week for the next 2 years. But again, still a focus on work, but whatever is manageable for those clients. And self-parent support, obviously, for those that are bringing up our future generations.
orphan's benefit and unsupported child's benefit are both the benefits or allowances?
They're allowances, but they're for people who are caring for people who are not their own children. They're not income or asset tested.
Regardless of whether they're regardless.
And the latter one is super, New Zealand super, which of course is a beneficial right when you actually age 65 years. So there's some criteria around meeting that in terms of country and things like that. So that's an overview of the main benefits.
So it's for the living payment. Potentially, several of you will know or maybe be on that or know someone who's already receiving that. Well, like Heather said, the criteria for that is around permanence and severity of disability or health. But it also has certainly people can still work as much as they want while they're receiving that benefit. Some of the criteria around that might be that while that they need extra support to do that. So again, every benefit we have is attached entirely to somebody's work capacity. Some of our measures are pretty gross, and that's why we like to keep connected to organisations, communities, so that we can really establish what it is that each person needs individually. Really. There's two types of supported living payment. One is for the person themselves that's not able to work or earn enough income at the moment to cover all their needs. And the other one is for somebody who is caring for somebody who would otherwise require residential level care. So that might be a parent who is caring for a severely disabled child, or that might be, it's not paid to spouses because perhaps potentially in that situation, the person who requires that level of care is already receiving that main benefit at a married person's rate. But it can be for somebody who is providing care to an adult who's living in the community, but may require, if that person was available, residential level support. There will absolutely be chances to ask questions about this, and please put your hand up anywhere as we're going along, because we're happy with that too.
That's one, yeah.
Yeah, so here Fiona covered a couple of the main benefits. We won't be going into the details of all of the different benefits that living income has. But we also wanted to let you know that while a main benefit, if you're receiving one, would form the main chunk of income, you can also get extra help. So that's little bits and pieces that you can get on top of a main benefit. And it can be for things like assistance to help towards your accommodation costs, so accommodation supplement. There's also child disability allowance, child care assistance, disability allowance, and maternity payment. They are income tested, and some of them are asset tested as well. All of the income limits differ for each one, which can make that a wee bit confusing for people. But all of that information is also on our website, and you can talk to us about which one you might qualify for. Once, yeah, you might be able to get
I just have a question from the chat,
yeah.
which is, can the parent, the full-time carer, and their adult child who is unable to work both separately receive the SLP?
Yes.
So potentially the person that's being cared for, the supported person, would already be in receipt of supported living payment, and then the person is providing the level of care, so the parent would then
provide the supported living home carer.
Is that income as it is with the
carer's benefit is the support living home carer is income tested, just income tested. So that means you can have money in the bank, but the money that maybe you might make off that money, interest will be deemed to be income. And so any income that's coming in from perhaps another party.
And of course, the winter energy payment is only paid during the winter months, so it starts in May, but it's in September, so those ones it's short. You mentioned supplement. So accommodation supplement is probably go. Provides assistance towards accommodation costs, and that may be rent, board or mortgage. You don't need to be in receipt of the benefits to get that, but you will need to meet the income and asset test. And there are maximum rates for each region. So Canterbury, it's just
If you're a single person, that's $105 maximum.
so it won't pay all of the accommodation costs, and then might imply it's a contribution to the
Just thinking about the question that we had about a carer and a child both receiving support living payment at home. And they might both be able to receive accommodation supplement if, for example, the carer was paying rent or mortgage, and then the person they were caring for or the child was paying for to them. We can assess them both for accommodation supplement.
And I might just add to that too, the board that person is paying to the carer or the carer wouldn't be income tested. You can have 2 boarders before it's treated as income. So disability allowance is about providing for support to cover health costs that are not covered by another organisation or the Ministry of Health, which we will mostly expect. So it's income tested again. That means that while everybody on the benefit would meet the eligibility criteria as far as income is concerned, many people on a low income would also meet that criteria. How much you get depends on your costs. So potentially some of the costs that we can include in the disability allowance would be consults for GPs, travel costs to health appointments that are regular. You might have regular prescription costs. Sometimes it can help with the cost of prescriptions that are more than the baseline $5. If you're unable to manage your gardens and things like that, we can provide some support for lawn mowing, some support for outside window washing if you require that, or there's no one else in the house that can do it for you, that sort of thing. But it is a maximum of $70 a week. That goes up every year a little bit. It's adjusted as per the CPI.
It's not a lot, it's usually about $1 or $2.
Not much. Yeah, so that has to cover all of those costs. The next point is that it's not to be confused with the child disability allowance. We're really aware of how ridiculous it is that those 2 allowances have such similar names, but they're such different allowances. So disability allowance is entirely about covering the costs of health care that you have that are regular and ongoing. And the child disability allowance is about a little bit of extra support provided weekly for people who are caring for children that require significantly more higher levels of care and attention than another child. So it's not about diagnosis, it's entirely about the care and attention that's required, and it's not income tested that anyone can apply for. So yeah, so the disability allowance itself can help those sorts of costs like that. They have to be ongoing costs, they can't be one-off costs.
And the Ministry direct relation to a medical condition, and that condition needs to be expected to last longer than 6 months. So for ongoing conditions, that's sort of And things like prescription charges, just another thing we can probably deal with the likes of blister packs if they are required for medical reasons. So if someone has memory issues and so they require blister packs for that reason, or physical, not able to physically able to can do them and things like that. So that it's an easier process. Happy to look at those sorts.
It's kind of not, it's an inexhaustible list really, isn't it? So it just depends on what's required. Age limit, 65, right? So that means that can be more than one person in each household that has a disability allowance.
So you may have a household, for instance, say 6 people, and 4 of those people have ongoing medical conditions. So you may have 4 disability allowance going into that.
The disability allowance is set up. It's set up based on the costs that you tell us about at the time, and then it will be paid at the same rate until you tell us something has changed. So if something does change, Juliet recommend.
Just a quick question on that, just in terms of getting the quotes. So, for example, transport to appointments, and I understand that that's done on a kilometre rating. How does somebody provide the quote for those kilometres? Can they provide you with a logbook, or what does that look like?
We need really is evidence of the appointments and the CC rating of the car. If you don't have a car, we can provide bus fare or public transport costs or other petrol costs. You may have somebody who drives you. And so we can work that, how much it costs out. What we need as far as the travel allowance is concerned, is an understanding of what appointments you need to attend.
And how long does that evidence need to be?
Well, the appointments need to be regular and ongoing. So something like your GP, you might go and visit monthly or 3 monthly. So that's fairly straightforward. You might have regular visits to some other health provider that you need support to access, the therapy, occupational therapy, other vocational support access, other vocational services. So yeah, pretty much anything health related, as long as it's on a regular and ongoing basis. So one-off trips, we will cover.
But when someone was providing their evidence, so like over a 6-month period or a 3-month period, or
if you expect the trips to stop after 6 months or 3 months, it would be your responsibility to tell us. Initially, as a general rule, we would load them in and they would be there for a year. So you are asked to provide us with confirmation for update. Yeah.
So this outings in the community, when the son leaves school, it doesn't have their taxi fare service. Is that included? So
Not as a general, I would suggest no. If it's something for interest sake, but if it's attending a group as part of life enrichments and socialisation, then likely yes. We just everything is taken really, I suppose, on a case-by-case basis, and we can provide sort of enough evidence that indicates a health requirement and a health need, then we can.
And probably the more information that you can give us when you're putting costs like that into this, the more information you have, the easier it is for us to make recommendations.
If you have total mobility vouchers, then we can cover those costs as well.
We just had a question from the chat. Are you testing the income of the parent prior to the disabled young person turning 18, and then it becomes the young person's income that is tested?
That's right.
That's correct.
Except for a supported living payment when the young person is eligible for a supported living payment at 16, and then the parent's income is not tested. It is always they're receiving adult income.
So just to add, supported living payment is the only benefit that if apply for the child can apply for, the client can apply for at 16, all other benefits are at age 18. And generally, if you're on child disability allowance at the age of 16, I'll give them an invite to child child disability allowance as we've indicated before, it's not income, it's not income tested. It's available to the principal caregiver of an dependent child with serious disability. The example we often give is the likes of children with, say, asthma and eczema. So, or ADHD for that matter. Any conditions where potentially they may be well controlled with medication. We wouldn't necessarily expect that to make child disability allowance, because we expect that that's part of normal parenting. It's not unusual for parents to hand out medications on a regular basis. However, if that child, for instance, has really regular exacerbations of asthma, has time off school, mum or dad has to stay at home to be to care for that child while they're off school, they might be hospitalised or frequently sent at the after hours. That's looking a bit different. They might need strong medications, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of instance when we would be looking at that. As Fiona's already mentioned, it's paid in recognition of the level of care that is provided to that child. It's nothing to do with costs. What the parent does with that money when it goes into the bank. And just to reiterate that you can actually be in receipt of both. So if you have a child with significant disability, we potentially could be receiving child disability allowance and disability allowance. Same time. So I told Nancy it's hard to hear over Zoom.
So she just said, part of that answer was hard to hear over Zoom. If the child turns 16 and receives SLP, then it becomes their income that is tested for disability now.
Because they didn't come up on it. Well, this is just.
Could we just ask you to speak up, because the people on Zoom are finding it a little bit hard to hear. Okay. And thank you, sorry.
That's the highest, right?
The microphone. Oh, that, yeah, yeah, but muted. The Zoom microphone is here. But if you speak through the microphone, it goes to the speakers.
So we'll go everywhere.
So it will go everywhere, so everyone should hear you.
That's Vicky. Okay. So thinking about hardship assistance now, this is a bit extra that you may be able to access if you're needing help to pay for something that is immediate and essential and you can't pay for it another way. Some things that is income and SE tested, as it says here, and some things need to be repaid and some things don't. So an example of something that would not need to be repaid is where you might have had an emergency cost that you need to cover, and that's left you without enough money to buy food for the week. So you could apply for a food grant and you wouldn't need to repay that. But there are many other things that you can apply for under a hardship grant that you may need to repay. Some of those examples are things like the washing machine mentioned earlier. That's something that you could apply for help with. Bond and rent, if you're moving into your own place and you're needing help with the cost to do that, that's something else that we can look at helping with. Or a fridge, when you move into that house, is something that we can look at assisting with. Also, wanted to mention that our website has a lot of information on it, and I think our service has worked hard over the last few years to try and make it as user-friendly as possible. I use it daily to access information, and I think it is a good place to look for information and become familiar with as parents or as service users and supporters. One button that we do like to remind people of is the check what you might get button, which is on the front page here. It can take you through to a quick questionnaire that if you answer the questions, tell you what you might qualify for. So that's good for people that haven't engaged with our service before or maybe haven't for some time.
The search feature up at the top left-hand corner is really sensitive and very good. Because like Jessie said, she uses it, I use it all the time as well. It's an absolutely great way to clear information to people about what they can get, or how they apply for it, what they need to apply for it, all of those sorts of things.
One suggestion, finding exactly what it is that you're after, so if you're able to split it out, it's just type it. Do you want to talk to that one?
Another one of our more recent services, so within the last few years, is My MSD, which is where people can do a bunch of things online for themselves without having to wait on our call centre line, because we know that wait times on the call centre line can be lengthy. So if someone is comfortable using technology, then I would absolutely recommend signing up for a My MSD account. This way you can access your own information, you can read your own letters, you can see if you're owing anything or if things are due back, like forms or medical certificates. You can apply for some things that way as well. So I think I signed up for it myself to see how it works, and I found it reasonably easy to sign up, but you do need a working income customer number and even email or a cell phone number to do that.
And I think when I typed it out, I can't set that up for I can't have my MSD for my daughter. But she's on this supported living payment 17. So obviously she can't access that. But I can't look up her stuff either, can I? So how do I look up or tell you about changes?
Are you an agent?
I'm a mum at the moment. Yeah, agent.
So if she's receiving a supported living payment, you still have to be loaded as her agent to receive the information because she's on an adult benefit. Presumably, that is the case. Do you talk to us on the phone on her behalf sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you probably will, because otherwise they wouldn't. So that's cool. Can you set up a My MSD for her? Well, theoretically, if her phone is connected to.
Doesn't have a phone.
Right.
Email?
Yeah, she can never. I just thought like if
It might be something.
I thought, well, I'll sign them for her because I don't
Be
need
useful.
to income. It's obviously the first thing. But I'm sure someone said I couldn't set one up under her name, her accounts, her client number.
If she had her own cell phone number, so you
She
can't,
doesn't have a cell phone.
yeah, so she wouldn't be able to set one up, but if she had her own number or email address, then she could set up her own one, but technically that's only for the person who it's set up for to access that information. The other way to do it is that you're signed up as her agent and you can access that information by contacting us.
It's ringing on that call centre wait time. That was the only thing I was trying to.
We set up
But can you have My MSD for Kate? You know,
We could set cars. That's doable.
go to store. Yeah, I would do that rather than wait on the phone.
Sorry, just trying.
See if you can sign. She's not actually a bad thing.
Let's not check with you about that.
Yeah, sure.
I think we would have a lot of clients that probably. the same.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So would it not be possible that if you had, so, you'll use a client number, but you mum's cell phone?
But if mum's receiving supported living.
I'm not. She is.
She is, but you're not.
I'm not.
You're not.
So I'm not getting, so I don't have a,
So the problem would be linking two benefits to one phone number, that wouldn't work. Right, but potentially we could talk about the other option. Because I think legally it's not. It's like having access to someone else's bank account.
Well, I've got access to a bank account,
Yeah.
she's minor
Yeah. I said,
at the moment, I'm a bank.
but as far as we're concerned, she's not received. She's on a head office.
Parents signed over as legal guardian, so you've done the guardianship.
If I haven't done that, so I don't need to yet, that costs money,
Yeah,
so that's right. It's careful.
sorry,
That's all right.
it is a wee bit complicated. Technically,
It's a good one we can follow up after the session, though.
Sorry?
Because it's a good, I think it would be common to, so we'll follow this one up after the question. I mean,
So we
after this
could
session and we'll
get
go through.
information about that and send it back.
Yes, it's a bit, yeah, and then I can disperse it. That'd be great.
So she's not capable of operating the same, that's why she doesn't have someone.
Does she
Yes.
have an email?
Understand that.
Yeah, but it's easy to go. Yeah, I can do it.
Does she have an
Email.
This is a guide for carers, which is a really useful information book. Some of you may already be familiar with it. Can you hear me? Sorry, just a- Oh, sorry. This is a guide for carers, which is was historically printed with a hard copy. It's now an online version. It is some really useful information in terms of all the things that bullet pointed there. And it's just something that may be useful as a resource for caregivers, and it's something we just like to think so that if people aren't aware about or haven't seen it, then perhaps that might be something they want to look at. And that's on our website.
It's on the MSD website, which is not the website. And the information contained in it is not all about MSD or the income either.
That's across our organisations. It's quite a useful tool. It's been around for a while, so you can see it.
It's very good, actually. We give a lot of people that come into the charity that booklet. We print it, we store them and they take it away.
Good.
It's good, yeah.
I like that it's also on the electronic version so that they can potentially save it to your desktop on your computer, and then as you want to, you can get it to Oh, that's nice. Thank you for your time, and we'll also be around to me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And so just to introduce by last, but I know convinced our last speaker. To Graham saying, does everyone want a 2-minute stretch break? Graham, get up and show us some exercises. Come on.
No, people may want to
Maybe not.
have a stretch break, have a drink of water or something, because, I don't know. I walk around all day, so sitting and listening for a long time is hard for me, so I'm assuming it might be difficult for others as well.
We could go for a vote. Keep going, keep going, okay. So next up, I'd like to welcome Vicky. Vicky, thank you for sitting there patiently. And Vicky is from Community Law Canterbury.
Fiona. Pleasure to speak with you today. My name is Vicky and I'm one of the legal educators with Community Law Canterbury. Now we have some little packs to hand out to you there. The first thing on it is our feedback form, which I really appreciate you filling out, even if you think I'm rubbish. It's the main way to get our funding. And there's also a guide on including the power of attorneys, and there's also a leaflet that give that trying. Okay. Okay, so the first question I've got, has anybody here ever heard of Community Law Canterbury? Wow, fantastic, that's a great start. So our physical space is in 198 Montreal Street in Central Christchurch. but we have various outreach clinics around. So now, as it says here, we're one of 21 different community law centres which are situated all around New Zealand. The best way to think of us is as one star in a constellation. Each of the centres generally provides the same service, but we also have our own specialisms. So, for example, Wellington has immigration, and at Community Law Canterbury, we have an EQC department and earthquake department. So, as the name suggests, Community Law Canterbury, our services cover all of Canterbury, but we also extend it out to the West Coast. As I've mentioned, we have our physical space in Montreal Street, but part of our service is about reaching out to the community and meeting their needs. So we have regular outreach clinics around Canterbury and in Greenwich. Of course, we have lots of different ways you can come and make contact with us, make an appointment and come and see a lawyer. At the moment, we don't have drop-in appointments, it's just a hangover from COVID. But you can contact us by email, by phone or text to make an appointment to come in and see someone in person. Now, I just want to point something out. Before you even come in to get an appointment, you can contact us by email or by phone and receive some really helpful legal information. And I have to stress it's information, not advice, but we have something, we have something called our info line, and that number is 0508 CAN-LAW. I'll reference it later on, but it's a great free service. And if you call, leave a message with your query, someone will get back to you. Or if you speak with someone, someone will take your details and make sure that your query is actually correct. And finally, text. So if you have hearing difficulties or optional, you're just a young person, then you can always use text to make an appointment with us. So these are our primary ways that you can come in and see us. So this slide shows some services and clinics we offer. As you can see, we offer a wide range of advice and information. For example, if you're looking for information around wills, we can offer that. But I will give you a little bit of more free legal information. You do not need a lawyer to draft a will, particularly if it's straightforward. You just need 2 witnesses and for all 3 of them to witness it. Now, I do want to point out one other service that community law offers that not a lot of people know about, and I think it's worth pointing out, and that is our youth advocacy service. If you have a young person in your life who's finding themselves at risk of being suspended or excluded, then you might want to give us a call. I understand the process can be really fast, so the minute you will contact us, and we may be able to come and support you whānau during these hearings. If you want to know more about this, then best advice, give us a call. Okay, so before I move on, does anybody have any questions about community law council? No? Okay. So now we're going to discuss enduring power of attorney. Now I'm just going to point out to you that you're going to hear me refer to them as EPOAs. It just stands for enduring power of attorney. The other thing you hear is EPA as well. So that's the kind of terminology. Now we're going to discuss, as I said, EPOAs, why you may need one, what they actually are, and finally the legal requirements surrounding them. Because of time, this is a fairly brief overview. However, we have the lovely Julia. This is the lovely Julia, who is one of the excellent solicitors for Community Law Canterbury, and she'll be here to answer any questions that I cannot. Now, many people presume that if you lose the ability to make decisions for yourself, that your family or a partner will automatically be able to make them for you. This is not true. If you're unable to make decisions for yourself or unable to communicate them, then usually someone will have to apply to the family court for a judge to make orders to deal with your personal affairs and your money and property. And trust me, this can be a very long, stressful and expensive process. However, if you have an enduring power of attorney, it can help you plan ahead for the future. By having an EPOA, you are able to give someone you trust the power to make decisions for you. If you become unable to make them for yourself, say due to illness or injury. Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, I'm perfectly fine, so why do I need to bother making an EPOA? That would be incorrect. Legally, you can only set up an EPOA when you have the injury capacity. As I have said, this is about planning for the future. The importance of EPOAs is that unlike an ordinary power of attorney, EPOAs continue to be legally valid and effective even if you, the person who created the power, lose the ability to make decisions for yourself. In other words, the power endures past the point when you're no longer mentally able. And an example of this would be if you develop dementia in later life, that would be sort of that's why EPOAs are an important legal tool for planning ahead for when you may no longer be able to make decisions. So I think one of the questions becomes, what is mental capacity? This basically means, do you have the ability to make informed decisions about your life? Like what kind of medical treatment you might want to receive or what you want to happen to your money. For a personal care and welfare EPOA, you will be considered mentally incapable if you're unable to make and understand decisions about your care and welfare, or if you're unable to foresee the consequences of those decisions, or if you're unable to communicate those decisions that you make about your care and welfare. For a property EPOA, you are mentally incapable if you're not completely competent to manage your own money and property. I should point out to you right now, there's two different types of EPOAs. So there's a care and welfare EPOA and a property EPOA, but we'll go into the differences in the two ones. Now, who decides if you're mentally incapable? Well, if it's regarding a minor decision, particularly regarding your care and welfare, then your attorney, and your attorney is the person that you appoint to make decisions for you, and I'll go over that again, can make the decision. But for any significant decision about care and welfare, like whether you could move into residential care, and for any decision at all about your property, your attorney has to get an assessment and medical certificate from a doctor or other health professional. So what is an EPOA? What's an enduring power of attorney? It's a legal document. It enables you to appoint someone, i.e. the attorney, to make financial and care decisions on your behalf should you lack the capacity to make those decisions or communicate those decisions for yourself due to illness or injury. In terms of EPOAs, there's two important definitions to give you. The first one is donor. Now, donor or the donor is the person making the EPOA whose care and financial matters will be taken care of when the EPOA is activated. The second definition is attorney, so just to clarify that again, that is the person who is appointed to act in the donor's interest and make care and financial decisions on their behalf and for their benefits. Please note, the attorney you appoint can be anyone that you love and trust to make the best decisions on your behalf. An attorney could be a loved one, a friend, or even a trusted business associate. It is someone who you believe has your best interests at heart, while having the experience and confidence to make decisions about your financial and personal care and welfare. As I said, EPOAs even can relate to your personal care and welfare and also to the property. A personal care and welfare EPOA lets you appoint someone to make decisions over such things as where you will live or what kind of medical treatment you will receive. This kind of EPOA can only come into effect once you have lost mental capacity and not before. A property EPOA gives the person you appoint the power to make decisions about your money and property. You can give them a general power to deal with all your affairs, or you can say to them, I want you to specifically deal with this one matter. This kind of EPOA concerns decisions about things like house repairs, benefits and superannuation, and or bank accounts. In your property EPOA, you can say whether the attorney can start using their power and making decisions straight away, or only if and when you lose mental capacity. If you want, you can make one of each type of EPOA in two separate documents, and you can choose the same person to be your attorney, your decision maker, or you can choose multiple people to be your attorneys. Now, in order for your EPOA to be valid, there are certain legal requirements that we will run through just now. Firstly, the donor and the attorney must sign the EPOA, as it's really important to know that it must be in the right form as well. Sounds obvious, I know, but very important. Now, these forms are available online from the Ministry of Justice. Community Law Canterbury can also help you fill out the form, but you must meet our financial criteria, and we can only help with care and welfare EPOAs. Now let's talk about your witnesses. These are the people that you choose to witness your signature of your EPOAs. Firstly, your signature, so if you're the donor, has to be witnessed by either a lawyer, a qualified legal executive with at least 1 year's experience, or someone from a trusted company like Public Trust. The attorney's signature also has to be witnessed, but this can't be by you or your own witness. It's also really important for us to note that the witnesses to your signature have to be independent of your attorney. However, if your attorney is a trustee company, a person from that company is allowed to witness your signature. And if you're appointing your attorney in their capacity as a lawyer, another lawyer or legal executive from the same law firm can witness your signature. Finally, it's very important that before you as a donor sign an EPOA, that the witness that you have chosen has explained the EPOA and its effects to you. They must also explain your legal rights, including your rights to suspend or cancel the power of attorney. Your witness has to provide a statement, which is a certificate which is attached to the EPOA form, saying that they believe on reasonable grounds that you understand the EPOA and its potential risks and consequences, and that you're not being pressured by anyone to sign the EPOA. This certificate also has to say that the witness has no reason to suspect that you might be mentally ill. Now, it's up to you to decide how much power your attorney will have. When you create the EPOA, you can give them a general power to deal with all issues, or you can restrict their powers to certain areas. Keep in mind, it's up to you as the donor to decide how much power your attorney actually has. Once your EPOA has been enacted, your attorney has certain responsibilities towards you, and there are also certain restrictions that limit certain actions that they can carry on towards you as the donor. It's really important to remember that primarily your attorney or attorneys must act in your best interests. The law sees your EPOA attorney as being in a special relationship of trust with you. They have to act with absolute openness and fairness towards you, exercise reasonable care, and avoid any conflict of interest with you. They must consult with you and encourage you to use what capacity you have to be in charge of your own life. If you have more than one attorney, then it's important that they communicate with one another about the best decisions for your care and welfare. And it's just as important that your attorney share information with anyone that's named in the EPOA. Now, as far as restrictions are concerned, you can probably see it split into two areas. There's restrictions around your personal life, so your attorney cannot enter you into a marriage or civil union or dissolve them, and your attorney cannot adopt out any of your children. Then there are restrictions around medical care. So your attorney cannot agree to such things as electroconvulsive therapy or brain surgery, or allow you to be part of the medical experiments. So in conclusion, by having an EPOA, you are able to give someone you trust the power to make decisions for you if you become unable to make them for yourself. And it is essential that you have the legitimate power of attorney prepared while you have the mental capacity to do so. There are two different types of EPOAs, care and welfare, which covers such things as medical treatment, or property, which covers such things as bank accounts and finances. There is also certain requirements that ensure your EPOA is legal, and number one of those is that the attorney and donor sign the correct form. Finally, it's really important to remember that if you are the donor, then it is your EPOA, and your attorney, the person you're appointed to make decisions for you, has certain responsibilities towards you and also certain restrictions on your power. If you want to know more about any of this, then I will point you once again towards that number, 0508 CAN-LAW. It is a wealth of information of lots of legal queries. I'd now like to thank you for listening to me. I know I just kind of talked at you for 20 minutes. If anyone has any questions, both Julia and I are here to answer them for you.
The EPOA had to be signed before the hospital. That's right. Yeah, so my daughter can.
So we're looking at the other one, there's another one that the welfare guardianship, yeah. I just thought about it.
Yes. Yeah, so had 18.
So I would recommend applying maybe 6 months before your daughter turns 18, because it roughly takes about 6 months for a formula to get granted. So I would encourage you to get that in sooner rather than later, because you'll have issues with government departments and other, like bank as well, because they'll require a court order once a person turns 18. And especially like MEC as well, because government departments, so they'll require that legal document. So I would very much encourage.
So our daughter's has already turned 18.
Yeah.
And we've got the letter from our doctor to say she hasn't got medical capacity.
Yeah.
So what's our next step for getting her power?
So your only option is to go for welfare guardianship, and that's applying to the family court. And with welfare guardianship, it's still the same process. So there's two different types as well. I want to say the biggest difference is it expires, right? So welfare guardianship, it only lasts for 3 years, and you keep doing it every 3 years.
How much does that cost?
If you go to a private lawyer, I've heard they charge up to $3,000. We do it for free, sure. So you're welcome.
EDF funding. I would think.
Good morning.
Just wondering.
But it comes out of the funding though. But Community Law Canterbury have just said that they do it free.
Yeah.
But if it was done through somebody's funding, then that comes out of their funding. It's not additional funding that's given to assist with that service. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Yeah, so we have a couple of family lawyers at Community Law who are able to help clients apply for welfare guardianship. I've assisted a couple of my clients as well through that application process. It is, I want to say, very tedious. It's very lengthy as well. There's about maybe 6 or 8 different documents that you need to get through. It's really repetitive. So I say to my clients, if you're getting your stuff, you're doing it right. Because that's kind of how the forms are designed. And then once it's through, you will get a letter from the courts, which they'll appoint a lawyer for the subject person. So that is a court-appointed lawyer who will either call or meet with the subject person. So that's the person who doesn't have capacity, and then they will make a report to the court, and the court will grant an order, essentially. Because of that time frame, that's why I say it takes about 6 months. Sometimes even shorter, but it's roughly around then. At the moment, with courts being on strike, it's probably going to be a lot longer. So I encourage everyone to maybe think about and pre-plan that.
What if the parents of the person have split and cannot agree who's going to be the enduring power of attorney? What would happen in that situation?
Enduring power of attorney or welfare guardian?
Welfare guardian,
Welfare guardian,
sorry.
yeah. So that is when there will be a court hearing, is when there is a dispute between guardians, and that's the most common way where you'll have to go through the family court and you'll have to appear in front of the judge and get the judge to appoint someone if the parents can't agree. So if that's the case, it would probably take more than a year for an order to be granted. You can only appoint one for care and welfare, and for property you can have more for the property manager. Yeah. So there's auditor, minister property, and there's property manager as well. So that's getting a little bit technical. Property manager, I want to describe it as more complicated and requires the welfare guardian, to put forward a financial statement every year to the courts. But auditor, minister property is if you've got minimal assets and not a lot of income coming in, then you will generally qualify for that. And it's just saying, there's not a lot of assets, there's not a lot of income coming in. I just need to manage their bank statements, pay bills, maybe deal with MSD and benefits, all that kind of stuff. So that's generally done through auditor, minister property.
I just don't want to for anyone else. One of the things that I have come up against as a health advisor for the ministry sometimes is that someone with a severe and enduring level of disability who is cared for in a care facility but is unable to to advocate for themselves and has no family to do that for them. We are often stuck with a young person who's turning 16, is eligible for a benefit in their own right, but actually have no person to provide that support for them.
What happens then?
What happens then? Because we have not been able to use
Absolutely. And you can imagine
someone to you, someone who will go, okay, we'll try and sort it out, but who then becomes their power of attorney?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, as a community law centre, we get a lot of these queries from different advocates, and social workers that obviously help a lot of clients. In that situation, the difficulty is there needs to be a person who can apply. If there's no family or friends who are able to apply, there are actually professionals who do this in their job. So they are welfare guardians for strangers, right? So they apply and they manage all of their, bank accounts and all of their stuff, because it just needs an order from the court to allow them and have that ability, that legal power to do so. So there is an organisation as well, I can't think on the top of my head, that there is a charitable organisation that actually does provide that support.
I'm not sure they're very charitable.
Okay.
That's a lot of money that I think it costs $1 million.
And then there is, and like I said, there are some professionals who obviously offer that service, but there's a charge to it as well. So it is one of those things where there isn't really an ethical answer to, you know, how we can navigate that system. But currently that's what we have to work with. And unfortunately for those people, and I've done a lot of these talks at various organisations, and I get the same question all the time, that what happens if they don't have a family member or a friend? And I have to give them the answer of, yeah, there's those charitable organisations, or there are those professionals who do it as their job, or I say, can you ask your social worker to see if they can apply, you know, because they have the powers to actually apply as well, you know. But I don't want to put that on anyone, because, you know, that is a lot of responsibility as well. So we don't impose that. We don't say, go and talk to your social worker, get them to do it, because like I said, it's a lot of responsibility and liability that they're actually taking up. So it's not encouraged, but it's an option.
So presumably, regardless of who applies to the court, they are they investigated at all to establish their ability to provide a fair and
Yeah. So
because there's no like protected adult services in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. I completely agree. Particularly with the welfare guardianship as well, it really annoys me the fact that you need to constantly reapply every 3 years, even though medically it's a condition that's not going to improve over time. You know, one that I can think of is dementia. You know, time is actually going to do the opposite. But even for them, their family members have to apply every 2.5 years, because like I said, it takes about 6 months. Even though it's a reapplication, it's pretty much doing the same thing, you know. So I say to the family members, once you apply, hold on to those applications, because you're just copy and pasting exactly what needs to be done in 2.5 years later.
The protection there, right, is that I may be a competent welfare guardian now, but not in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
So that's a good protection built in.
It is.
I get that it's frustrating.
It is. So I can see both sides to it. Is that obviously that's one of the reasons why it needs to be reviewed every 3 years before it can be. But then, you know, there's a lot of arguments about, like, what if medical practitioners, because you need a medical report, you know, saying that this person is not going to improve over time, can you extend the time frame? The only extension is up to 5 years, you know. And I've just received a lot of complaints from family members, parents and guardians, who find that process extremely stressful, because they're having to do it for the rest of their child's life, essentially, you know. To go back on that,
it's complicated.
yeah, it is quite complicated, just because this is obviously the process that we have, and the forms aren't designed to be easy for a parent or guardian to actually apply on their own. They do say that the forms are technically designed to be easy, but when you have a look at them, and for those who've actually had a look at the forms, it's about 20-something pages long, and you know, it's like I said, it's really repetitive, and that's where people kind of go into, oh, I'm definitely doing this wrong. And then I've heard lawyers who charge $3,000 to put that application when the application itself is free. You know, there's actually no cost to applying to the family court, so all they're charging is for their work. And I do admit it is a lot of work as well, you know, because it's about 8 different documents you need to get through, but I don't think it's $3,000 worth of work, to be honest. But that could be because I work at Community Law Centre, so, you know, so that could be why I have that view. Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, we've just got a question from the chat again. Is the process the same for a home for life child whom the carer has custody and additional guardianship of? And do the biological parents get notified?
It's a really good question. So if they're an additional guardian, and that's been approved by the family court, then regardless whether they are, as soon as someone turns 18, no other person in New Zealand will have legal rights over that person. So they still need to go through the same process and apply. Yes, the biological parents will get notified, and also they have the ability to contest the application. So they can also make a counter application, right, to say they're the best person for this role, so therefore they should be granted, right? And this is obviously where it gets really lengthy and complicated, and this is where you will probably end up in a family court hearing in front of the judge with a lot of evidence to support why you're the best person and why the other people are not, you know, and that's kind of where us as lawyers would be advocating, obviously, for the person who we're acting for. Yeah, so, you know, if you ever want any information or want to apply for wealthy guardianship or enduring power of attorney, as Vicky very clearly illustrated today, please give us a call. We're more than happy to give you some information around it and assist anyone with that process. So,
that concludes our speakers for this evening, and we'll just go to questions shortly. But before we do, I've just got a couple of wee thank yous for people. So, Caitlin, we've just got a wee something actually. Thank you. And it's one of the it's a shame. Thank you. Right, let me show them. Thank you very much to the lady at the Ministry of Social Development and also to Community Law in Canterbury. Thank you so much. Where you I have to give you the words, which is thank you so much for helping us with this series. This is the second part of the series, and it does conclude the series. We will throw out 2 questions, but if you have a question, can you just make it clear who your question's for? So an example of that might be, my question is for enabling good lives, and then ask a question. If people could just speak clearly so that the people who have joined us by Zoom this evening can hear the really good korero that is happening within the room, be much appreciated. Thank you.
Or use the microphone if we can pass that around.
Right, any questions, anybody? No. 29 people are done. Yeah. Okay, in which case we've just got a little bit of Kai and some tea and coffee. If it is that you did want to stay and have a wee chat, then please feel free to do so. Thank you so much again, everybody, for coming along with us this evening. The evaluation. Oh, the evaluation form. Oh, yes. Community law. Oh, thank you.
All right, if there are no further questions, we'll just do a quick karakia to close, and then we can mingle and chat, so forth. So if you're able, if you could please be upstanding. So again, if you know this one, feel free to play along. Otherwise, come at the end when we say, "I'll be able to retire." Okay, taikina te karakia. Unu kia te o kiri mana. Tomo kia te au patakaka. Tātai ki roka, tātai ki garo, tātai ahura. Aungie, kuie, tātai.
Yes.